Welcome back to the Sibling Group Chat. I'm Owen.
And I'm Cassidy.
And today we are back at it with the Odyssey review, episode 24, Officer Harley Takes the Case.
Yes, this is actually a two-part episode. These episodes originally aired on May 7th and 14th, 1988. And these are part of the Officer Harley collection, as the name would imply. And we've got a pretty straightforward episode description for you today. Officer David Harley tries to find a missing boy named Steve Larson. And our themes are responsibility and you can't run away from your problems, which is a sentence, not a theme, but it's okay.
Well, And it's like, so this is our second to last Officer Harley episode, but I think it's a little while before we get to our last one, correct?
Yeah, the last one is actually another two-parter called Officer Harley Returns, and yeah, it's a ways down the road. So we get a bit of a break from him here.
And I assume we will tier rank our Officer Harley episodes once we get there, correct?
Yeah, once we get there, we'll do those.
Down the road, we'll have a tier ranking coming for you of these, and stay tuned. I believe later this month you'll be hearing our first tier ranking of Odyssey episodes. Later this month.
Yeah. Actually, as this will come out, our audience might not know about our tier ranks yet because we're recording slightly out of order. So when you're listening to this, next week we will air the last episode of Album 1, because air date wise, it's after this one. But because we wanted to get our tier list done, we have already recorded that episode, and then yes, we will be releasing a tier list of Album 1 episodes.
Yes, so next week, enjoy us from a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, and part of the reason we want to get that done is because Owen is in a new location.
I'm in college.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can see a bed in the background. I'm in my dorm room. So.
Yeah, it's a bit of a change of scenery. But yeah, this episode, actually, these two episodes were later redone as one episode, episode 121, Missing Person.
Believe it or not, Odyssey writers did an amazing job of making a one-part episode better than the two-part episode it replaced.
Yeah, I think taking out Officer Harley, honestly, he wasn't a problem in this episode, and we'll get into that as we go on.
This episode.
No, and I think what they cut out did make it a better story. Like, there was a lot going on here, and I think when they condense it later on, it makes it a lot better. We don't want to get too much into that episode because, again, we'll review that episode later on. But in that one, Officer Harley is replaced in part by Officer Orion and in part by Isaac Morton. The kid who is missing is Rodney Rathbone, so we get Bart Rathbone.
And believe it or not, I think I noted this later, but I'm not a huge Isaac fan. Like, I've never his episodes have always been to me like ones that are like, yeah, no, I'm good. Like, I don't know if it's just his demeanor or just the episodes that they do. I don't know. I've just never been a huge fan of Isaac. I actually did miss him in this episode.
Yeah, because some of his lines, I just like. The Isaac lines coming from Officer Harley was a little odd at times.
Yeah. But anyway, we should probably get into it before we share all of our thoughts.
Yeah.
So, first of all, I did not understand this intro at all.
No, I didn't, and it only got more confusing once the episode started, because this opening sketch, Chris just decides to randomly tell us that baseball is ramping back up for the year. And then in the episode, the kids play softball.
Originally aired.
What?
When did you say this originally aired?
Beginning of May.
Yeah, that's not even a good time for that anyway.
Well, I suppose, like, for kids.
See, but like you said, they're not even playing baseball in this episode.
Yeah, the kids are playing softball. But
anyway, yeah, it's something about like you need practice or anything. But anyway, it had nothing to do with the episode. I didn't see the point, and I was really confused.
Yeah, the only funny thing about it was that Phil Lawler was playing this boy who wasn't in shape for baseball, which was kind of funny, I guess. But yeah, it was really weird.
This is an episode. I think maybe we had one other one like this so far, but down the road there's like an album where it's mostly like this. But there's a little bit of Mr. Whitaker narration throughout this episode.
Which was entirely unnecessary, I feel like. I feel like at the end he wraps it up pretty well, but you could have done that wrap up in the episode. It wouldn't have had to be narrated.
Basically, it's just what I think the most important thing he tells us is just that this is Officer Harley's last case in Odyssey.
Mm-hmm. And again, I'll get into this more at the end, but I'm assuming the writers like really intentionally wrote this episode to send him out of the show well. Like,
it would seem.
He was being removed from the show because people had problems with him, and they're like, okay, fine, we'll get rid of him, but we're gonna have him leave in a good light.
Yeah. I didn't really think about that, but I think you're probably right there.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so there's a carnival in town. I think in the redone episode they say it's the state fair. Why the state fair would be an Odyssey, I'm not sure. Maybe it's one of those episodes where Odyssey is actually like a fairly decently sized town.
I mean, our state fair is not in a decently sized town.
Well, I mean, it's a top 3 or 4, or probably 5 or 6 town in South Dakota. But there's actually a historical reason for that, because when they chose the state capital, it was between those Huron and Pierre, and Huron got the state capital, or it got the state fair because it wasn't chosen to be the state capital.
I feel like that's a major consolation prize, because it's like, woohoo, you got the state fair. That's like so like trying to keep you happy. Yeah, I don't know. I'm actually
history.
Yeah, I'm going to the state fair tomorrow. Actually, we are recording this over Labor Day weekend, which is when the state fair is in South Dakota. And if you didn't know where we're from, now you do. No, we're from South Dakota.
I'm actually not in South Dakota. I'll be going to the Kansas State Fair next weekend. So
yeah, there you go. It's a timely episode.
Yes, except for it's not, because this is a carnival, not a state fair.
Oh, that's true. It actually has nothing to do with this episode.
And Officer Harley comes into Wits End just because, I guess. Wits End is busy due to the carnival. But Officer Harley gets a call on the Wits End phone because they couldn't reach him on his walkie-talkie, and they just assumed he would be at Wits End. So he must spend a fair amount of time there, even though he's on the job.
Yeah.
And they said Steve Larson is missing, and because he didn't show up to softball. Okay, I just have to pause right here. Steve Larson is a boy.
Mm-hmm.
Boys don't play softball.
Men play softball, but no, boys don't.
Men who are too old to be playing baseball play slow pitch softball. But boys play either t-ball or baseball, or some form of baseball. Even at a young age, you don't have people playing softball, because if girls aren't playing softball, they'll play baseball with the boys at this age.
Yeah, I just thought
no boys are playing softball at any age until you're too old to play baseball and you need to play slow pitch softball.
Yeah, that was really weird to me, especially because at the beginning, Chris said it's baseball season, and we've had baseball in Odyssey before. Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
It was
softball
weird.
is a girl's sport, except for
until you're old. Yeah, yeah. I thought that was really weird. And also Whit makes this comment that Steve would be too responsible to miss softball practice, which was really weird to me, because we don't know anything about Steve yet. That does make sense. But later it's Rodney, and Rodney would definitely skip softball practice.
It's very clear after a little while that this is not Rodney did not replace somebody of like character.
No, he did not.
But anyway, so Officer Harley goes to talk to Mr. Larson because
well, before that, when he leaves Wits End, he says, "Thanks for the ice cream." And Connie's like, "You didn't get any."
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yes, he goes, and I just had to ask: is Mr. Larson's voice the same as Bill Kendall?
Yeah, I realized that later too.
I thought so too. It does not work nearly as well as Mr. Rathbone, because most of his lines are the same, and it's just it doesn't work.
It's also, I'm gonna be listening out for this voice as we go on, because Bill Kendall doesn't come into Odyssey until much, much, much later. So I'm interested to hear how often this actor is around before he becomes Bill Kendall.
Yeah.
But anyway, he tells us that Steve has been gone for 4 hours. And I'm not a parent, but I do live in a small town, or outside of one. I feel like that's not that long. Like,
Yeah,
I feel like they're
it
too
depends how long
freaked
you're
out.
expecting him to be gone, I guess.
Yeah, I guess if that's weird for your child, you could be concerned, but I don't know. I felt like I was like 4 hours and we're already calling the police. It felt a little soon to me, but I could be wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't think it was too odd, but at the same time, yeah, I mean, we live in a small town, so.
Yeah. But
Um, yeah. Anyway,
I
yeah,
don't know.
moving on.
Yeah.
Uh, so then Officer Harley goes to talk to uh, Steve's best friend, Jay Brandt, which in the redone episode, they just make Jay Brandt the name of Rodney's best friend. But
Yeah.
since I haven't heard Steve talk, I kind of assumed that Steve was supposed to be around the same age that Rodney is portrayed. So when Jay sounded like a 3-year-old, I was really confused.
A 3-year-old?
Okay, it's not quite that bad, but
I
he
think
sounded like a
I
little
think
kid.
well, I think Jay was Oscar.
Yeah.
And I think this is the first time we hear from the voice of Oscar. And I'm like, "Aw, Oscar."
Sorry, I dropped my mouse. I needed to look at my notes.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah. But it just, I don't know, it didn't fit in my mind because he sounded way too young to be.
Yeah.
But later, Jay is voiced by Jack, I think.
Yeah.
But I think it's after Jack is already, like, not around anymore, so it's an older Jack.
Yeah. I also was just laughing at the name Jay because much, much later in Odyssey we get Jay Smouse, who is like a major kid.
Yeah.
And so just if you're just saying Jay and not Jay Brandt, my mind just goes Jay Smouse. So
Yes. And I mean, yeah, this is the only episode, well, technically not because they redid it, but it's kind of the only episode with Jay Brandt.
it's a one-time kid who shows up twice.
Yeah. But only because they redid his episode. And
Yeah, and didn't change his name. But
in all
yeah,
honesty, they probably, if they had redone it a little bit later, could have just made it Rusty, but it wasn't quite
yeah,
to that point yet. Because I feel like Rusty's
yeah.
the only person who was ever Rodney's best friend. Like, that would make sense to know stuff about Rodney.
Yeah, and again, this kind of gets into discussing the redone episode instead of this one. But we mentioned this when we were talking about an act of mercy. The act of mercy in this episode that were later redone with Rodney. These were very early on in Rodney's character development. So we don't really have. I feel like Rodney developed to the extent he later was, and certainly Bart Rathbone is not the character he later becomes. Because, like you said, it would make more sense that it would be Rusty. I feel like even later on, Bart would not be making Rodney play baseball, but their characters hadn't been developed to that extent yet.
Well, that's not entirely untrue because the redone one ends up being Bart's first episode or second. I know this episode
Either this one or the Act of Mercy one are his first, but I can't remember in what order they were
but I
done.
know that this episode happens in the exact same album as the episode where Bart is a softball coach and seems pretty engaged in coaching softball.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, it does seem like Bart does like sports.
Yeah. But anyway, that's not really the episode we're discussing.
We like to jump around here.
Yeah. Jay confesses that Steve had skipped out on softball practice, which nobody knew yet.
Officer Harley seemed surprised, I guess.
I don't think they knew.
Well, but that's the reason that they called in the first place. Steve Larson is missing, and he didn't show up for softball. That's how they knew he was missing.
Oh. Oh,
That's what I
yeah.
put in my notes.
Yeah, no, you're right, actually. Yeah.
But regardless, and I forgot to mention, before he goes to talk to Jay, when Mr. Larson says that Steve had gone through the woods, he said that Steve likes to play in the woods, which they changed later because in a later episode they talk about how Rodney wasn't much of an outdoorsman. It seemed odd that he would go through the woods, whereas Steve, it seemed like they would have expected him to go through the woods.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
But anyway, he decides to head back to the woods because he thinks that there's probably some good hiding places there. Officer Harley does. Which also Jay did tell him that not only did Steve hate softball, he also hated carnivals, so he would be unlikely to have gone to the carnival.
Yeah, basically, Jay is like, listen, me and Steve are nerds. We're not playing softball or going to the carnival.
We're gonna stay home and read books.
Yeah. Yeah. Which, does he go to the woods after that, or does he go to Mr.
Well,
Webster's
he
house?
says he thinks those would be some good hiding places there, but he does go to Mr. Webster's. And this is a scene that does get taken out in the redone.
Yeah. I love
I kinda like
Mr.
Mr.
Webster.
He was a funny little old man.
He's my favorite part of this episode. Matilda, don't cook me dinner. I'm going to jail.
Right, because like Officer Harley comes to the door, and Mr. Webster opens the door, and he's like, "I was wondering when you guys were gonna show up. Don't give me a parking ticket. I was only there for 2 minutes. I had to go get my prescription."
Yeah. I love this guy. And also, like, just the voice is funny because this old man voice, he's Mr. Watson, who owns the hardware emporium. He's Ralph Reams, who is Eugene's grandfather's friend, who both of those guys have good lines too.
Story too.
He's who?
The crossing guard story. Isn't he the old janitor in that story too? There's
Probably.
And voice.
Yeah, he just does a lot of those voices, but these old men always have great voices. But yeah,
That's the biggest bunch of hooey I ever heard in my life.
Yeah, I very well may name our episode Matilda, don't cook me dinner. I'm going to jail. I need that on a sticker. If we ever make merch, we'll put that on a shirt with "Why was Coach Riley there?"
Yeah. But Mr. Webster tells Officer Harley that he had a softball bat, a softball glove, and a knapsack. And then Officer Harley asked him if he could see what was in the knapsack. And Mr. Webster's like, "I can barely see the boy. What makes you think I'll be able to see what was in his knapsack? You think I have X-ray vision?"
Yeah.
Which, also, side note, well, never mind. I mean, that just kind of shows Officer Harley's still slightly clueless, but why would he, like, assume he could see what was in a knapsack unless he thought it was a clear knapsack? Like, what is this, a professional sporting event where you have to bring in a clear bag?
In 2025, yeah.
Clear bag policy in Odyssey.
Yeah, I don't know. There's been a couple times throughout this where, like, I'm missing, once again, missing Officer Orion's Irish accent, because, like,
he goes, a glove,
knapsack. Also, so he hated baseball, did he?
Yeah. Except it was softball.
Yeah, but, you know. Mm-hmm. Sadly, we move on from Mr. Webster, and we never hear from this lovely old man again.
Yeah. We do find, well, Officer Harley has pretty much concluded at this point that Steve ran away. Between finding out that he didn't like carnivals or softball, he just thinks he ran away. He goes deeper into the woods and runs into Mr. Larson, who still does not think he ran away. And part of the reason why this episode takes 2 parts instead of the redone in 1 is because it's around this point in the redone episode where Mr. Rathbone tells Officer Orion about them having a fight that morning. Whereas in this one, Mr. Larson doesn't tell anybody at this point. In fact, never actually tells the police about it to begin with.
No.
And Officer Harley gets a call on his walkie-talkie saying that somebody thinks they saw Steve at the carnival. So pretty much everybody except Officer Harley leaves to go to the carnival. He stays and keeps going deeper into the woods, convinced that he went there. Because he actually had, this is one of the smartest things that I think Officer Harley might have ever said. Because there was one guy, I don't remember his name, who had already been basically to as far as Officer Harley gets. Sherman, yeah, Mr. Sherman, or maybe his name was Sherman, I don't know, an adult named Sherman.
Yeah.
Had been all the way to the edge around Gower's Field where there's a rusty tractor and an old barn. And he hadn't seen it. And Officer Harley goes, like, "Oh, but Sherman was already there and he didn't see him. But he was looking for someone who he thought wanted to be found. Like, you need to be looking, like, if you're looking for someone who doesn't want to be found, that changes how you look. Like, that's the smartest thing Officer Harley ever says."
Mm-hmm. Well, and then again, too, he starts heading into the woods and he can't see any evidence of Steve, but he's like, I'm walking through the woods like an adult. Let me get down and walk through the woods like a kid. And then he notices Steve's trail.
Yeah, like Officer Harley was like on point on this journey
Yeah.
through the woods.
The writers were really trying to sell. We promised he was a good police officer.
He was a little nutty, but he did know what he was doing.
Yeah. And also, Officer Harley has been suspecting something's up with the dad since he first talked to him. Because we didn't say it there, but Officer Harley kind of tries to insinuate that maybe Steve ran away, and the dad gets really defensive.
Yeah.
We don't know why quite yet.
That was the part where I most missed Bart Rathbone, because like he wouldn't run away. He had no reason to run away.
Yeah.
Which I think Mr. Larson said it, but he didn't say it with the conviction.
No. But yeah, Officer Harley finds a trail. He ends up finding Steve's bat and glove, although it takes him a second to register.
He's starting to question whether or not he's on the right track. He's like, could really wish I could see a sign. Something like that ball and glove under the tree over there. Or glove and bat, or whatever.
Yeah.
But, tip
yeah, and he's like, oh wait, that's Steve's bat and glove.
Yeah. So then he tries to contact the chief, but his walkie-talkie has been haywire this entire episode. Like, whether or not it's getting through. Sometimes he can get through, but the chief can't get back to him, or the chief's getting through and he can't get back to the chief.
This walkie-talkie really carries the episode.
It really
like it's a crucial plot point throughout the whole thing, like whether or not it's working.
Eventually, he reaches Gower's Field and determines that he needs to go check out the barn.
Which I just want to say, Gower's Field is a surprisingly consistent landmark of Odyssey.
It's so consistent, yet like nothing ever happens there.
It's just there.
Farm.
Yeah, but it's in this episode, and then the redone version, it's in Terror from the Skies. It's when Donna enters her rebellious teenage phase.
Yeah, well, that one was there like a Gower's like house too, or something.
Yeah.
But then it's also where the plane crashes in the Green Ring Conspiracy.
Yeah.
And there's one other one. I don't know. There's a couple other mentions of Gower's Field, I think.
Yeah. But yeah, for 27 episodes into Odyssey, this is a pretty consistent thing.
Yeah. I think that's where the plane crashes in the Green Ring Conspiracy.
I believe so, yeah.
Because I've only listened to it once, but it wasn't that long ago, and I'm pretty sure that's where.
Yeah. It shockingly has nothing to do with Novacom.
Well, I feel like there's maybe a tower or something, but maybe that's just the one on Riley's land. I don't know.
Yeah. Anyway.
But
Gower's Field will return.
Yes. It's like at the end of a Marvel movie when they tell you which characters in that movie will return. Gower's Field will return.
Yeah.
But he goes to check out the barn, which has already partially fallen apart. He finds a raccoon eating a cupcake. And
he says a name brand cupcake, too. Like, he doesn't say what brand it is, but are they trying to say it's like a Hostess cupcake?
Yeah. And he's like, where did this raccoon get a cupcake? I bet you it wasn't the local raccoon convenience store on the corner of... He, names a specific place where this convenience store would theoretically be for raccoons.
But, if the raccoons did have a convenience store, Officer Harley would know where it was.
He would, yes. So he's convinced Steve is there. He can't find him on the main level. He calls up to the hayloft, and eventually Steve basically he responds, says, "Go away."
It's at this point we realize that Steve is Jimmy.
Yeah, Steve is Dave Griffin. And yeah, again, after hearing Steve as a younger boy, it made Jay make more sense. But when I first heard Jay, I was still like, what in the world?
Yeah.
But both Jay and Rodney are older than Steve and Jay in this episode. Jay Brent. So he tries to get Steve to come down, but before Steve comes down or Officer Harley goes up to get him, the hayloft caves in. And I believe that is where part 1 ends.
Yeah, it does, because we don't even hear, it's not like they go, oh, it caved in. We just hear the sound, and then Chris tells us it caved in.
And I'd just like to point out, Officer Harley and Steve do not move for almost the entirety of the second half of the episode. They are stuck in the caved-in barn for an entire 23-minute episode.
Yeah. But I don't think it actually. I mean, I guess they are stuck there for hours. They're really stuck there longer than 23 minutes. But yeah, the good character work stuck there in that one spot.
Yeah. So anyway, the second half starts at a carnival where the police are looking for the man who was supposedly talking to Steve, who was spotted earlier. Meanwhile, Officer Harley and Steve are pinned under the collapsed barn. Steve, I believe, has very little mobility. Officer Harley has his upper body is not covered by wood, but he can't move because he's still under the wood there.
Mm-hmm. We find out Steve had run away with only cupcakes and books.
Yeah, he just wanted to go read by himself.
Mm-hmm.
And Officer Harley's walkie-talkie is on the ground, just out of his reach.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so like you said, Officer Harley finds that he ran away because Steve's dad doesn't encourage his reading, but only encourages him to play sports. And Steve thinks that if he quit sports, his father wouldn't love him anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Which is a little bit similar to what Rodney thinks later. Rodney's just not reading books because Rodney probably never knew how to read to begin with, but his is working on his mini mic.
Yeah. Which, again, I missed Riley here, or not Riley, Rodney here, because Rodney has a line of, you just talk sports all the time.
Yes.
I relate with Rodney in that line. I mentally say that a lot, because with you, sometimes it's just sports all the time.
Yeah, well, you know. But anyway, back at the carnival, they catch this mystery man who I believe they started chasing before we went to check on Steve and Harley.
And by they, we mean it's Steve's dad and the other dads who've been helping him. The police weren't fully sold on this guy being a suspect, so like they're like
officers was with them.
Well, he's with them, but he's like chasing the guy. He's not helping them chase the guy.
The mystery man. But we find out through the course of this short scene that the mystery man was actually talking to his own son, who apparently is Steve's doppelganger.
Yeah. I also
his both dads realize the resemblance, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and even I thought it was interesting. Whit is narrating us into this scene, and he says this is the closest thing he's ever seen to a riot in Odyssey. Well, sir, just you wait, because you're gonna have some more riots in Odyssey.
Yeah, you will. But anyway, once they realize that they have reached a dead end because the guy was talking to his own son, we're back to the barn where Officer Harley and Steve are still stuck, and Officer Harley is trying to convince Steve that running away is a dumb thing to do. Now, this is one of those lines where it seems really odd for Officer Harley just to be like, boy, you're really dumb, aren't you? Like, it made so much more sense. Like, and just Isaac's delivery, too. It's like, boy, you're really dumb, aren't you? When he's talking to Rodney is so much better than Officer Harley, I think.
Yeah, and honestly, when Isaac has this serious heart-to-heart with Rodney, he only has the nerve to do it because Rodney can't move.
Yes.
He's pinned under the barn. Isaac would never be this upfront with Rodney, if Rodney could catch him.
Yeah. But then, so Officer Harley tells Steve about when he ran away from home because he didn't want to tell his dad that he didn't want to be a doctor. He wanted to be a police officer.
Can you imagine if he become a doctor?
Dr. Harley. Now that would have caused some problems.
Yeah, I don't think he would have very good bedside manner.
Yeah. But Officer Harley tells Steve that it broke his dad's heart when they found him, not because he had run away from home, but because he wouldn't tell his dad. He hadn't told his dad how he really felt. And then we don't actually get a line about, like, in the redone version, when Isaac talks about his running away from home experience, then Rodney says something about, like, well, that's your dad. My dad will kill me, something like that. Like, he doesn't think his dad will be the same way. But we don't get a line like that because in this one, the random wild dogs of Gower's Field show up.
Yeah, which we had heard rumored earlier in the show.
I kind of that they were fake. I didn't expect them to show up.
No. Well, even after they did show up, I was still waiting for them to be fake. Like, that it was going to be the sound that they were thinking was wild dogs, but it was going to be something else. But but apparently there really are wild dogs.
Yeah. So they decide to keep quiet. Is at this unfortunate time that Officer Harley's walkie-talkie pops up again, and the chief gets through, but he can't obviously reach it yet. So he literally talks to the walkie-talkie. It says, "Chief, be quiet." The chief would not have been able to hear him because that's a walkie-talkie doesn't just transmit if you're not using it correctly.
Yeah.
But then there's a lot of back and forth here because then we go back to the Larsons. Mr. Larson had been told to go home and get some rest because there's nothing else that he can do.
Mm-hmm.
And he tells his wife about the fight that he had with Steve, and they pray that Steve would be found.
Yeah.
I want to point out, I understand why Mr. Larson had not wanted to talk about the fight. However, the police probably would have found Steve a little bit faster had he.
Probably.
Yeah.
I want to talk about his wife for a second here. Because like I said, we've done some recording out of order, and I also know what episodes are coming. So we have the voice of Steve's mom here. The next episode after this is A Change of Heart. She's the voice of Freddie's mom. The episode after that, in air date order, is The Price of Freedom, where she is the voice of Kirk's mom. So this woman plays 3 different boys' moms in a row. Not ever, but consecutively.
Yeah.
Right, they were probably like, nobody will notice. The mom's not that important. We're just gonna use the same lady for 3 different moms in a row.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because in the redone version, you don't even hear Rodney's mother. You don't hear Doris until like years down the line.
Yeah, honestly, it's a good thing you don't hear her because, like,
Yeah,
when Bart just talks about her and says she's worried sick, but if we had heard from Doris, she probably would have like laid into Bart and then laid into Rodney, and yeah, we don't need Doris's drama.
Boy, when she lays into Rodney for all the dumb stuff he does, it probably been something along those lines.
Yeah. She's like, "Oh, are you okay? I'll kill you. What were you doing?"
Yeah. Anyway, then, so back to the barn. Hopefully you guys are all keeping up here. Oh, I just lost my notes. Let me see if I can remember what happened. Back to the barn, the dogs break through the door.
Which I just have to point out, not only have we been going back and forth, we've also had Chris and Whit popping in periodically to keep us on track. Because at this point, Chris tells us that had the barn door not been closed when the barn collapsed, they would not have been protected from the dogs. I don't think we needed Chris to tell us that.
Yeah, and also it ends up not actually being that important because the dogs break in, and Officer Harley ends up getting the dogs to go away with the dog repellent spray that he always keeps with him. What is dog repellent spray? Is that a thing?
It is a thing. I've heard of it, like, runners will carry it. And I would maybe policemen, maybe post office, what's the word?
Postman?
Postman. I was like, what is Wooten's job? What is Gary's job? It was not coming to me.
Yeah. I've never heard of that. When he first sprayed, I thought he had maybe like sprayed the dogs with like pepper spray.
Me too. I was trying to like preemptively type my notes, so I had typed pepper spray, and then I had to go back and change it.
It seems like this is the first and only time Officer Harley has ever used this in his life, but he always carries it with him.
Yeah.
But in the whole dogs entering, there's only 3 of them apparently, so not really much of a pack, but a few. A dog had happened to kick the walkie-talkie close enough to allow Officer Harley to reach it, and it just so happens to work this time. He gets through to the chief. The police come, they save Steve and Officer Harley. Steve's returned to his parents, who put him on restriction, but there's some good things that happen too because he doesn't have to play softball anymore, or at least they're going to talk about it.
Also, I just want to say they put this kid who likes to read. Their restriction was he has to stay in his room on Saturdays. I don't think he's gonna care unless they take his books away.
It seemed like he was gonna care, but yeah, that's what a boy who would want to read would do anyway. I would assume.
Yeah.
Yeah. The chief tells Officer Harley he's a good cop, and this is again those writers being like, eh.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I also think it's funny where he's like, you could get a citation for this. And Officer Harley's like, oh, that's not necessary. And the chief's like, oh, okay then. Yeah. But he
But
does get a citation.
yeah, he gets a citation. He receives like 2 other awards, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And he ends up getting a job at the State Department. I wonder if they kind of got some of this idea from the Andy Griffith Show,
I
because
know. I was waiting for him to be working in the fingerprints and through R. I really wanted that to be what happened.
or it would have been funny if it was like a different like S through Z or something like that, like right
Yeah.
after you are.
Yeah. Can you imagine Officer Harley and Barney Fife working together?
Yeah,
That
that's for sure.
that is a fan fiction I would pay to see. I'm not going to write it myself, but somebody who's good at writing fan fiction, please write us an Officer Harley meets Barney Fife.
Yeah. And I didn't even
Something.
think about. I honestly didn't think about it when I was listening. I just thought about this now. So I wonder. I bet it is partially where they got the idea, because there's
Hal Smith was like, listen, there's this work I've done, you may have heard of it, the Andy Griffith Show.
Yeah.
When they got rid of Barney, this is what they did.
They didn't really get rid of it. Is that they actually thought they were going to be done making it, and they decided to do another season, and Don Knotts was unavailable because he already got other acting jobs.
Mm-hmm.
I believe they made 2 more seasons without him, or maybe 3.
Too many.
It was either 2 or 3. Yeah, too many. Well, they replaced him briefly, and then it was just Andy by himself for most of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he leaves for the State Department, and Whit talks about how Mr. Larson thinks he'll come back because he still has to give. He said he would give Steve a ride in the police car, and he hadn't done it yet. And I just want to pull back. There was an earlier point in the episode. I didn't write this in my notes till the end, but there's an early point in the episode where Officer Harley references the Academy. I don't know if he does this in other episodes, but it really made me think of Detective Longnecker from No Deposit, No Return.
Yeah, I think he has referenced the Academy other times. Well, actually, I'm not sure if he has, because sometimes he makes it sound like he became a police officer with like a correspondence course. Or is that Harlow Doyle?
Harlow Doyle became a private eye through a correspondence.
That's true. Yeah, I think he does reference the Academy, but yeah, he does sound like Longnecker. And while we're referencing old Disney movies, I thought of this earlier but didn't say it. Mr. Webster reminds me of the old man and that darn cat.
I don't know what you said, but I disagree with you 100%.
Yes. Yeah, this episode is full of, we've got the Andy Griffith Show, we've got No Deposit, No Return, that darn cat. Yeah. The other episode that we're not supposed to be talking about.
Yeah. There's also, what is it? One of the Herbie movies, the Herbie Goes to Monte Carlo. I know you weren't with me, and our parents watched it not too long ago. You weren't there. But there's a French police officer who has also reminded me of Officer Harley a little bit too.
Oh yeah, it's been a while since I've watched that movie, but yeah.
But yeah, if you wanna get all of our references, go watch some old Disney movies. Yeah. They're better than new Disney movies.
For sure. We'll probably end up discussing some on the podcast at some point in time.
Oh, but yeah, Chris's outro is basically don't run away from home. Talk to your parents or siblings.
Yeah.
And that's about it.
Mm-hmm. I think it's interesting that they even redid this episode. If this was supposed to be their way to send out Officer Harley, like why they decided to redo it. Although I feel like I got the Adventures in Odyssey guide a few weeks ago, and I read a few things from it. If I remember correctly, part of the reason they even ended up redoing a lot of his episodes is because the writers were just busy with other stuff, and so they needed something that they could quickly just change and put in.
They would have had to put in a decent amount of work for this one, because not only did they change the characters, they removed a good portion and added a decent portion of the episode too.
I mean, they didn't add a ton, except for that there's a few of the scenes with Lucy and Isaac. Yeah, but I feel like they had to cut out more than they put in.
Well, yeah. Because they made it a one-part episode, and they had to shorten it too. But it's not about does it. Next week is a change of heart, I believe, because we recorded that one a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, and we've mentioned it a few times. But yeah, next week we will finally wrap up Album 1, The Adventure Begins, with episode 27, A Change of Heart.
Yes. So stay tuned. We'll probably tell you this next week. I don't remember what we said, but stay tuned at the end of September for our Album 1 tiered ranking of the episodes. And if you're confused why I'm not at college in the next episode, it was pre-recorded.
Yep. So you're going to be all kinds of confused with our timeline and the Odyssey timeline. We're so sorry to confuse you. Just bear with us.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, as always, we thank you for watching and or listening. Subscribe wherever you get our podcasts. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram. And we'll see you next time.
Yeah, bye.